Now in its third year, it's a Yank on the Footy with Craig Wessels, talking about the greatest game on the face of the earth. Sit back and enjoy, everybody. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 203 of A Yank on the Footy. I'm Craig Wessels, coming to you from Sandusky, Ohio, and I'm glad you're giving this episode a listen. This is actually the second of 6 episodes that I will be releasing this week prior to the grand final. Don't forget, if you are interested in getting your local footy club to get a shout-out in an upcoming episode, drop me an email at ayankonthefooty@gmail.com or drop me a note over on my website, ayankonthefooty.com, and let me know about your club. I'd love to show them some love in an upcoming episode. Now, folks, if you've not had the opportunity to take a listen back to episode 186, just quickly, we're doing a little fun activity for my mom leading up to her 80th birthday, which is coming up in about 7 weeks. And she stated that she was hoping to receive birthday cards from as many different people in many different places where somebody would put a note or a postcard or something of that nature that shows what makes them happy. So if you're interested in doing that, there's a link to my home address in the show notes. If you want to send a card, that would be absolutely fantastic. If you've got friends that would like to send one, that would be terrific as well. It would be absolutely wonderful. Now, today's club of the episode is being sponsored by McAussie.tv, and McAussie.tv is run by Kim Harris, or as we call him here in the U.S. and North America, McAussie. He spent the last 2 decades running his sports comedy channel, talking about the NFL, the Canadian Football League, and of course his beloved AFL. He's a huge Adelaide Crows supporter. He spends a lot of time on Sports Grid TV, also on Friday evenings, talking about the NFL, the AFL, and the CFL there as well. Now, the club of this episode are the Bullsbrook Saints Football Club. They are located in Bullsbrook, WA, on the northeast fringe of Perth, one of the suburbs out there. And the club, as it is now, came back into existence in 1993 after having been on a 20-year hiatus. And they play their home games at Pickett Park, which is directly across the Great Northern Highway from the RAAF base Pierce. They're a member of the Hills Football Association, and this year they finished 4th, I believe, out of 8 or 9 teams on the ladder in their league, ultimately dropping their opening game in the finals, in the elimination finals, to Mundaring 69-62 back on the 4th of September. I wish the Saints the best of luck heading into 2023. I have to tell you, I absolutely love the logo, the Saint riding on the kangaroo. I know that that's kind of one of those stereotypical things that, us Yanks would say, but if that thing's available and as a sticker, I would love to figure out how to get one of those, because it's a really, really cool logo. So again, folks, remember, you can find everything related to my podcast over at my website, ayankonthefooty.com. You can get on the mailing list. You can leave a review. I just had a great review left earlier today. Absolutely stoked about that. Truly appreciate the kind words. If you want to help out the podcast monetarily, you can do that through the Buy Me a Coffee page as well, or you can head over to my Redbubble store and check out some of my merch that I have available there. Now let's jump into my discussion with Tony Davis, the son of Melbourne premiership player Frank Davis. Love talking to Tony.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am thrilled to welcome back an absolute friend of the podcast. I guess a family member of a friend of the podcast as well, I guess you could say. He was my guest back in episode 84, previewing the Demons, I think last year. I don't think I asked him to do it this year, didn't, so I feel bad.
That's all right.
Maybe that's what happened.
That's what happened.
He joined his father, Melbourne premiership player Frank Davis, back in episode 97 as well. He's coming back as an unaffiliated fan to look at this this weekend's grand final. I'm thrilled to have Tony Davis back. Tony, thanks for coming back on, sir.
Craig, great to be back on. Love listening every week. I'm a religious listener, and I appreciate fun to be back on the podcast. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
I had it's been interesting. I still every episode I still have 1 or 2 people who are listening in Ukraine, which I'm thinking, that's okay. I didn't know there was time enough to do that, but okay. And then I had like a dozen downloads from Iran last month.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, you're worldwide. You can put that in your advertisements.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's been like 50 different countries or so. So that's been crazy.
Yeah.
So before we get into talking about the grand final, we kind of have to go back and look at last year's grand final winner, who some of them have, they've left the facility where the Brownlow Award was presented last night and have headed on to vacation now.
Right.
You being a Demon supporter, your dad being a premiership player there, what do you think? What happened this year?
Yeah. No, I've thought about it a lot, and as I was watching the season progress. There was I think a quote earlier in the year when they were 10-0 that that they weren't even playing at their best yet, and wait until they do because no one's gonna beat them, right? And I just had a ton of trouble with that comment because you play the week you play, and you play the team you play, and your performance is there for everyone to see. There's sort of expectation maybe that you're gonna, you can grow as the season goes on and improve, but they just looked, to me, they looked, I don't know. I don't think it was a matter of like, there was a lack of effort or lack of, or they dropped off at all. I think they actually were very similar to last year. Their defense was solid. They had the last couple of weeks in the finals, they've kind of dropped off a little bit, scoring, giving up more scores than they normally do. But I thought they weren't too far off of last year. I think other teams got better. I think Geelong just got better. Sydney got better. Collingwood got better. Freo. Melbourne probably just, they didn't improve. And you and I were just chatting off air, I didn't see an improvement out of Luke Jackson. Pickett was up and down. They lost McDonald, but if Tom McDonald is your make it or break it guy, then you're probably not a premiership team. So
okay.
They didn't really blood any new players. Bowie was in, then he was out. It was just very much of the same, and I think that was probably my criticism. Only criticism late in the year was when the team was struggling a bit, they just didn't try anything new. It was, and I get the idea of being, trusting your players and trusting your system and believing in it. It obviously won you a flag, and I will forever be happy for that.
And there evidently is some talent outside of the 23 that are there for selection day, because just yesterday the Casey Demons won the VFL premiership.
Yep, absolutely, yeah, so. No doubt. But I look at, we'll talk about Geelong later, but I look at the Stengels and the Holmes and the you can rattle off the names more than I can, but Melbourne just didn't have anyone that sort of Oliver's Oliver, Petrarca's Petrarca, Gorn's Gorn. They're just, what you're getting with those guys, and Leva and May and Petty and those. They just was, the core is solid, and they will be good for a while.
Right.
So I'm very excited for that, and it's hard to repeat. Right, everyone's going after you, and it's a new experience for everyone. And so, I just think they were a really good team this year. They just, other teams got better, and
that's fair.
Now I'm excited for Van Rooyen, the young kid. I kind of wish they had thrown him in. He's a tall forward. He played very well at KC, and they thought about putting him in the final against Brisbane. They never did. They kept the team unchanged, and I would have loved to have seen him play earlier in the year and get some games under his belt. And I thought Bedford looked good at times, and Chandler and a few of those guys. So, I think Dan Turner will be good eventually. So I think the future looks promising. It'll be interesting what happens with Jackson leaving.
Right.
So I think in a nutshell, I just think, other teams just got better than they did. And good for them. And I'm excited for the grand final. I think it's going to be a great matchup.
So with it looking as though it's a foregone conclusion that Luke Jackson's heading back to WA.
Yep, he said he's leaving. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's been determined yet which club. I'm sure they're going to start playing one off the other to see what they can get back. Correct. But what are you hoping they get in return for him? Not necessarily mean specifics, but in general, what are you hoping they get back?
Yeah, I think I think his value, being that he's 20 or 21 years of age, and he's played
Mhm.
50 games already. They always talk about getting 50 games, 75 games into these players, and that's when they really start to figure out how to play the game. He's there. So the team that's getting him is getting not a kid anymore. I mean, he's young of age.
Right.
He's a fairly seasoned player. I think a couple first round picks is probably the kind of the standard I'm hearing or
Mhm.
reading. Whether that's in the top 5, and he was number 3 pick. So you think they want to match that for sure.
Yeah.
And then maybe a mid to later first round pick. I don't think they need a player in return, but I think if it's Frio, I think Frio doesn't have that collateral to deal with Melbourne. So either a third team has to get involved, or they got to maybe do a future first round pick.
Right.
West Coast, I think, has the number 2 pick,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that's available. But I think that's where you got to go because, I look at Melbourne's list. While I think it's got a good deal of youth in it, it's also got some older, experienced players that are going to need to be replaced in the next, 3-4 years. So, and they've done a great job with their drafts. Pickett and Bowie and Jackson and Spargo and Hunt and Fritsch. I mean, these are all recent draft picks,
Right.
outside of Oliver and Petrarca, and Brayshaw.
Yeah.
So I trust that if we get some high picks, we'll replenish and try and find fill some gaps.
So, you were talking a little bit about off air before we started recording. That there are some rumblings out there that there may be a ready-made replacement for Luke Jackson out there, and it's a very interesting proposition if he's completely healthy.
Yeah,
Because I guess, and we're talking about Brody Grundy, and the rumors online are that that Port Adelaide's going to be making a push for him, but is he somebody that wants to stay in Melbourne?
yeah.
I think once you're in Melbourne and that's where you want to be, I mean, there are certainly opportunities for you to stay there if you choose to do so.
Right. Yeah, it does feel like that is a strong likelihood that Collingwood. I think it's interesting. There was I did see some commentary about the fact that Collingwood could have used Grundy on the weekend against Sydney. That with Mason Cox and is it Dusty Cameron, the other ruckman, that they were being pushed around a little bit, and that a Grundy would be ideal. I think Collingwood's just got cap issues, and if they want to keep DeGoey, then
I've heard that somewhere before.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. So I think it sounds from what the trade radio commentary and some of that Melbourne's met with Grundy, and they were getting ready for the fact that Jackson was probably leaving. So I think we chatted a little bit about, is that a good fit for Grundy to go to Melbourne when you've got Max gone? I think that is a reasonable question to have to ask, and I think it'd be interesting to see how they use him. Whether I don't like the idea that one of them plays as a sort of a permanent or a resting forward role. I don't think either of them are really skilled in that regard, especially when you compare them to the elite teams out there. So, we talked about, I think I heard Josh Jenkins talk about having Grundy play a back half ruck and Gawn play a forward half ruck. And, it's pretty imposing when you think about those two.
Yeah.
Again,
it's
with being healthy. That's
right,
a great point.
Yeah.
So that I think, and they're both older too. I think Grundy's probably just turned 30.
I think so, yeah.
Gawn's, I think, 34-ish, 33, 34. So, yeah, I think he would slot in beautifully. I think, when you got a talent like that, you figure out ways to make him part of your team,
Yeah.
So, So I think they still need a tall forward, someone that's could maybe take some pressure off Ben Brown, who tried to play that sort of center half forward, and it's just not his.
And he's more of a, I'm going to take the mark and kick the goal kind of he's not somebody
leading out of the goal square kind of a thing,
Yeah.
And They just didn't have that second toll that they tried a few different people and it didn't work. So
right.
Whether Van Royen or someone like that coming out of Casey is the answer, we'll see.
Okay.
So yeah, but
So-
I'm excited. The Melbourne will be good for a while. So
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean they may find their way right back into the grand final next year. With you had Gaughan coming back from his foot and Petrarca with the leg injury, and you wonder how much of an impact did how bad were those, and we'll never know how bad they really were.
Yeah, no doubt. And it did seem like, because Melbourne had, I think in 6 or 7 of their losses, they led by more than 25 points during the game at some point. And last year they might have just put teams away, and they just couldn't hold these leads.
Right.
I think that was the biggest issue they had. They just whether that was a physical thing, they lost their performance coach. Darren Burgess went back to Adelaide. So whether that was a factor. I think they looked fit enough, but the performance didn't show it. So yeah. Okay. But I'm excited for the next year and next few years actually. And I was telling someone the other day, like, after 57 years, winning it last year, it's just I can watch that game on repeat for the next 20 years and be happy.
Yeah, there you go. I'm hoping to experience something like that here soon myself.
Yes.
Now, speaking of 57 years ago, what's this year? The year of them being the defending premiers. What has that been like for your dad? Having been part of the previous premiership side, what's it been like for him?
Yeah, I think I think we've forgotten a little bit. No one's forgotten COVID, but I think if you recall, obviously that the game was in Perth last year. It was later in the year, so it was in October. And Melbourne was still in lockdown. So by the time some of the festivities occurred in Melbourne, it was sort of in December. They did that replay of the grand final at the MCG, if you remember. And a short story, I think I can tell this quickly. I don't think it's a bunch of the old-time Melbourne players had gone to a birthday party of a former teammate the week before that celebration, including Ron Barassi, and they all got COVID. And
man!
So Ron couldn't go to that replay event, and neither could my dad and a few others that were planning on going to it. So, but fast forward but the team was great. They personally brought the Premiership Cup to my parents' house, and so Dad got a photo with it, and that was pretty cool. And
I'm hoping. Let me just pause here. And I need to make sure that I say this so everybody can hear it. I hope Narelle was not in the photograph. You Hawthorn supporter, you.
She took the photo.
There you go.
Was not in the photo.
There you go. That's okay then.
That's right. Yeah, very good point. And she will be laughing her head off listening to this. Yeah, no, we don't need any, Hawthorn supporters pretending to be Melbourne supporters jumping on the bandwagon. Yeah, no, that was good. That it was a nice moment, and then he was back at. They had an unfurling of the flag. They had several of the former captains on the field. Dad was not one of them, but they had a gathering of everyone at the club at the MCG. I think it was before the first game of the year against the Bulldogs.
Okay.
And so club got very engaged on that sort of stuff, and I think it's been. He did a lot of radio about this time last year.
Right. Oh yes,
which was fun. Thanks to you.
I still ended up. That's the one reason why I didn't mind seeing Collingwood knock off Carlton is again because they couldn't wait until after the grand final to hire Michael Voss. So I ended up getting bumped from when I was supposed to be on.
You were going to do an SEN interview or something, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to be on the Sporting Capital.
Oh yeah.
I got up at 4:00 in the morning to be on, and I check my email. Oh, the Blues hired Michael Voss. We're going to be talking about that all day. Like, son of a gun.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah. Another reason to not like Carlton. You'll get on. I'm sure at some point, the way your podcast is going, I'm guaranteeing that they'll get you on. at some point. Especially if your Cats win, we should maybe make that happen. So yeah, anyway, but no, the year's been great. Dad's, I think they've been to a few games now, and yeah, it's just it's just a nice little back bookend to the career, and he's it's been fun for the family, even those that follow Hawthorn. But I've enjoyed it. I've taken my Melbourne baseball or cap to various locations around the US. I was at Mount Rushmore. I was at Lambeau Field. So I've been sort of enjoying the being able to brag a little bit. Yeah.
Has it been recognized by anybody?
Well, I put it online a little bit, so people responded that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
okay,
because my close friends who have traveled to Australia with me before, pay attention to that sort of thing. So
okay.
Yeah.
Good deal. I didn't know if if you ran across somebody at Mount Rushmore, go, "You're a D supporter." Wow, great.
No, unfortunately, no. Usually that doesn't happen too much, but no, and obviously, like we were chatting a little bit before, I think both you and I want to get back, or for me, get back to Australia, and for you to take that long waiting trip that you've been planning.
Yes, it's hopefully it's going to happen sometime soon. I'm still working on getting myself, healthy enough. I'm down like 108 pounds.
You look good. I can see you on the video.
I'll go with better. Because I don't like the word good, because good will make me complacent. If I look good now, then I'm thinking, you know what, I can go have some pizza, even though I can go have that chocolate bar or whatever the case may be. So I'll go with better, because there you go. Let's be honest, with this lump of clay to work with, I'm never going to look good. I might look better someday, but it's never going to be good. Well, and you also want to probably wait till they finish the stadium down there, so you can get down to Geelong and actually get a seat. Yeah, and see we'll see some games. So, I'm hoping someday that it's going to happen. I really do. But my wife is, she said, "You're an old man." I said, if something happens to me there, that's where I wanted to be. Yeah. Just go ahead and I'll put it in my will. Go ahead and just wherever, if I'm there, go ahead and cremate me and have somebody sneak me out onto the ground there or something like that, or go dump it in the harbor. I don't know. Yeah. Because I won't need to worry about myself at that point in time. Exactly. So we're getting a little morbid here. We need to talk about the let's move on. Yeah. So let's Cats and Swans. This overall, even though the D's went out in straight sets, this was a pretty good final series. There were a couple clunkers, but there were a lot of very competitive games. Absolutely. And especially even the Swans Pies game that this past weekend, the Cats Lions, complete clunker. Didn't mind it. That's
about the only one that wasn't too close. Melbourne Sydney was 20 odd points, but Melbourne really led that game for a while, and really what they sort of lost it in the last little bit. So I think all of them have been fun to watch, and
they have been
super competitive. Yeah.
So looking at it as a D supporter, your club played both of these sides. What do you think the keys are for each of the teams to win? What do the Swans need to do? What do the Cats need to do to win?
Yeah, I think for Sydney, their advantage, and there aren't many, I would say, if you look head to head against Geelong, is sort of the young running players. It's Goulden and Rowbottom and Mills and Warner and Heaney, that Papley, so the mids to forwards that I think could give Geelong some trouble, just based on the experience of Geelong. I won't necessarily say they're all because I think I've been very complimentary towards Geelong because they've really blooded some really, really, really good young players, and but I think Sydney has an edge on them with speed. I expect the game to be high pressure. They all are, right? Other than I think the Brisbane-Richmond game wasn't terribly high pressure, but they can all bring it. You don't get moments to breathe. It's amazing how 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 quick you've got to react, and I just think that speed will be to Sydney's advantage. And I think if Franklin can do what he did against Collingwood, if you a game against Melbourne, Stephen May just torched him, and and other than Buddy getting a couple cheapo free kicks that really swung the game against Melbourne, otherwise I think they might have beat Sydney. May had him beat, but Collingwood had no one to match up against Franklin. I think Geelong has some options, so. But if Buddy can just compete and get the ball down, around those, Papleys and Heaney's of the world, then I think Sydney can score. So I think for Sydney, that's what they got to play on, is their competitiveness, their pressure, and their speed, and then utilize one of, if not the best forward that's ever played the game, one of the top 3 or 4.
Right.
And maybe this could be Buddy's last hurrah, and go out on top.
Yay! So the Cats would get to be the backdrop for Buddy twice this year.
Very true. Yes. Yeah. Good point. I hadn't thought about that, but yes, of course you would know that. So anyways, yeah. So I think that's for Sydney. For Geelong, I just think they're just awesome experience. I think of Selwood and Isaac Smith and Paddy Dangerfield and Mitch Duncan and those guys and Hawkins. It's a who's who of the last 10 or 15 years of elite players in the league. And Jeremy Cameron's just, I think, the best player in footy. And I think most people think that, just because what he does, the running he does, the impact he can make anywhere.
He takes his defender all over the place. It's amazing to see that.
It's just crazy. And then you've got De Koning and Stewart and Blixars and I just don't know where the weakness is. Maybe in the ruck, but I think they work through that with how experienced their midfield plays. I mean, they can play off the other ruckman. They did it against Melbourne. They only played each other once this year, and it wasn't really close. It was the only game Melbourne really was never in. They took an early lead, but then it was they were done at that for the most part. So I think Geelong, and I just think they're just due, right? They're due to win this thing.
You're saying that you're saying that to a Cleveland sports fan. So as far as due, you're taking a drink of Mountain Dew, the Cavaliers won, what was it, 2016?
Yeah.
But the last time, a Cleveland team had won anything was 1964, interestingly enough. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's
well then I think in your case, the moons have aligned, the stars have aligned, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, I know you've only been a Geelong supporter, you're new to the game, 7 years, clearly. Yeah, but I mean, for a team that's been that competitive for that long, when was their last flag? 2011?
2011, yeah, it was against Collingwood, yeah.
Yeah, I just feels like they had a great platform last year. The game against Melbourne, the prelim final, I think, they just, I know they had a bunch of illness. I mean, Melbourne was just running all over them in the end, but you could tell that and Cameron, I think, had some hammy issues and stuff. So, I think you could just see that they were building, something for this year. And, I'm not a big Geelong supporter, but I certainly think it's very appropriate that Dangerfield should win a flag. I think Selwood's I think he's going to set the record for the most finals this week.
Now, do you think that players like Isaac Smith and Selwood may step away from the game if they win this year?
There's some logic to that. I haven't watched enough of Isaac Smith's game like I see him coming in and out of games,
Mhm.
So I don't know if he's dropped off a little bit. Obviously, he's getting up there in age
he runs like a deer.
His
aerobic skills are off the charts. I
yeah,
think even at this advanced age,
right.
and and I
And I,
say advanced age,
watched a lot of him at Hawthorn, and he's just a player that Melbourne almost had him. I mean, he had to pick between Geelong and Melbourne, and he went with Geelong, and so I would have loved to have him on.
Rumor has it the fishing's better there. I don't know if that's the case or not. I don't.
The Yarra River doesn't quite have it compared to down in Geelong.
I don't know. I guess that's I see all those pictures of Paddy Dangerfield out fishing. So he went from Adelaide to Geelong. So it's must be some appeal.
It's a nice area
to that.
Yeah. So. No, maybe they would give it up. I mean, Selwood, they've been using him wisely, and he's obviously still contributing. The work he did on Lucky Neal this last weekend was, they just pestered him, and he just couldn't get comfortable in the game at all. And would it be a good way to go out for sure? And
again, I should, let me say here real quickly, I am not advocating for that. I was simply asking the question. I'm not sitting here going tick tock. It's time to start moving him out of. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Yeah. Well, it does seem like they have a fountain of youth down there somewhere, because I mean, Hawkins, I mean, he looks fit and firing, and I mean, they've just been able to kind of stay healthy, prolong their careers. Yeah. I think they've managed their team well this year. I mean, they gave Dangerfield a few weeks off mid-season, and seems like that's what he needed. And, so I think, there's very few weaknesses. I mean, they've been talking about getting Brodie Grundy down there too. I think that's probably the only thing they need is a ruckman.
Well, and that would be interesting. I know that Reece Stanley is not the biggest name ruckman, and I know he's always ranked at the bottom, but he always seems to get a goal here or there.
Yep.
When they need it. He moves around the ground pretty well. I don't know if I've ever actually seen Brodie Grundy kick a goal before, quite frankly.
Yeah, I don't think he's a big goal kicker.
Yeah, I don't think there have been many.
No. So when you got Cameron and Hawkins and
Stengel
and you don't need
it.
True.
True.
Yeah, and Dangerfield obviously usually pops in with a couple, and Gary Rowan and those guys. So it's like I said, I think Geelong's going to go in the favorite. There's a very good reason they've won 15 in a row. Other than the Collingwood game a couple of weeks ago, I don't know that they've been really challenged too much. The Port Adelaide game was one of my favorite games I watched all year, which was kind of round 17, 18, thereabouts, maybe, because Port just stormed over them in the third quarter, and you thought, right. But they found a way,
Yep.
So, I think,
wow,
I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a fun game to watch. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. But I probably think Geelong will win comfortably in the end.
Okay.
All
right.
Sydney worried me a little bit the other day, just the way they finished the game, against Collingwood.
I guess I didn't really realize I knew the streak had gotten long, but I didn't realize that they hadn't lost since the middle of May. That just did. Wow. I mean, because they were, they started out, let's see, 3-2, 4-2, 4-3, 5-3. They were 5-4 when the streak started. I mean, that's wow. That's
I think they had a few injuries early in the year. I think Cameron missed a few games. I think, this reminds me of Melbourne a little bit last year. I mean, Melbourne just got on this roll, and I think they won, the last 7 or 8 games, and went through the playoffs or the finals, and really had no troubles. So, it's like anything. It's like you and I, when we get to the Super Bowl every year, you just hope you're not getting to see a blowout.
Yes, absolutely.
I think the longer Sydney stays in it, obviously they'll believe, and I think their pressure is enormous, and I think it's just going to be full on right from the beginning, and And obviously, if there's no big injuries, that's always a factor too.
Yes, you don't want to have any of those on either side. You want everybody able to go enjoy their summertime after it's done, and then come back again next year. So if you had to put a nickel down on the Norm Smith winner, who do you think that's going to be? So
I think based on last week's game, you'd have to pick Dangerfield. I'm a big Mitch Duncan fan, and I love Zach Guthrie too. So it'd be fun to see one of those two.
And I noticed you said Zach and not Cam Guthrie.
I mean Cam. I said.
I'm becoming. Zach Guthrie is just. He's been. Because in my classroom I have a team poster, like the team photo from 2017, which was really when I first started. When I decided, yes, I'm going to be a Cat supporter, and I found that online. So that's 6 years ago. I mean, I started following it in the year before, but Zach Guthrie looks like he's about 12 in that picture.
Right. Yeah.
And I posted something online this week after the way he played the last couple of games. I said I think he's now at the point where Chris Scott is writing his name down on the list in ink now rather than in pencil.
Yeah, no, he's
kind of put himself in there. It's been fun to watch him grow into that role, because he was that guy that could never get more than a game or two a year for the first 3 or 4 years, and now he's starting to make a name for himself. And
well, the fact that I sort of mixed him up with his brother, obviously very different players, but no, he's become like you say, sort of an inked in player. And I saw a nice story about them. Not nice in the sense that their mother is suffering from cancer, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I think those things personalize those players a little bit for you. And even the teams that you tend to sort of cheer against a little bit just because they're so good, and they threaten your own squad's success. But no, I would add a wholly different attitude. This is Collingwood, but
yes, I get it. I guess I'm kind of making that little, and I don't really mean it, but I guess that the whole Carlton thing still just is a burr under my saddle after last year, because that would have been so great if that would have
exactly.
But,
no, that's
what
how
it
these
is.
things start, right? It's usually some little, maybe unintentional sort of slight, but. And of course you asked me for the Norm Smith. I named 2 or 3 Geelong players. I'm assuming that's a Geelong victory. I suppose for Sydney to win, it would be a Chad Warner or a Isaac Heaney kind of or Papley even. I mean, he's from the area you grew up in, down in the Gippsland area.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of that where. He's the player you love to have on your team. You would just
absolutely. Yes.
And you hate him as an opposition player.
Yeah, you hate playing against that guy that is just going to be, and I mean this in a positive way, an absolute pest.
Yeah.
I mean that positively. That's not meant to be detrimental at all. Yeah, it's just somebody.
And he's just so skilled. I mean, I mean, some of the goals he can kick from distance, and not just the ones around the, crumbing off the packs and stuff. It's just, and he's just an energy player, and gets you fired up. So
Sydney has a lot of them. They're just like the little Energizer bunnies. They just go and go. I mean, it's
well, and I have a little affinity for Sydney only because of when they were originally South Melbourne. The team I played with when I started playing footy wore the white jersey with the red V, and we sang the same song that Sydney sings, that and so I've always had this sort of a little affinity for them. And a couple of my neighbors in Mulgrave and played for Sydney, and so I've always enjoyed them. And they had a big drought too, and they overcame that. And so I would be like I say, I'm looking for a good game, and I don't know that I'll be cheering for one team versus the other.
Yeah.
I do think Geelong will win. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Tony, this has been a lot of fun, man. It's I love getting your insight. I love catching up with what's happening with you and with your family. And glad to know that Narelle was not in the photograph, because that would have just been. Now I have to ask, did you get in the photograph with the Hawthorne Cups?
No.
Good.
I did not.
Okay.
When I was around them because when I played for the Hawthorne under-19s.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? So you would be allowed to, because you did play with them then. So
for a couple of minutes. Yeah.
We'll cut you some slack there.
There you go. So that gives me a little connection, but no, I admired them from a distance, but I'm very proud. I can't wait to touch the 2021 Premiership Cup when I get down to the G sometime, and hopefully we'll have the 2023 one to add to the mix.
Well, there you go.
I think no offense to Kat Oxley. She did the preview for Melbourne this year, but we might have to go back, Kat, to having me do it, because I did do it the year we won the flag.
Well, and I think Chris Peppers did from Lace Out Podcast did the other one. So I actually had 2 Melbourne supporters on this.
There you go. Yeah, I think we're gonna I think as Melbourne supporters, we can all agree that we'll just go back.
Or maybe
what worked.
or maybe we set up a roundtable discussion. With
that would be a
people.
Blast.
I would love to do that. It's just it's. I think I got so occupied trying to find a Richmond supporter, because remember I didn't do a Richmond preview this year because I could not find one that I couldn't get anybody to come on.
No,
and I still think they're pissed about me, giving them a hard time about having to when they have to play at Marvel.
There's word out in the club that not to do any interviews.
Yeah, I know. I'm that renowned now. It's yeah.
Damien Harvick is not a fan.
I guess since they have since they have to get across that 25 kilometers of desert and that 3 kilometer wide croc infested river, maybe just maybe they could use an arc and travel by arc. Oh, too soon? Across the river. Oh.
That is a good line. That should be on a t-shirt or something. Yeah.
That just popped into my head also. That just popped into my head there. That was I was thinking, I know that they were complaining about the ARC system, so let's see. Wow,
yes.
They were on a river. Yeah, let's
take an ARC from the MCG to Marvel Stadium.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, man,
there's a river they can use. So.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So have a great evening.
Thanks. Good to talk to you, Craig. Good luck to your cats.
I appreciate it. All right. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
All right, Tony, thanks a lot, man. I truly appreciate you fitting time into your schedule on Sunday. I was packed full of interviews. I did 3 that evening, and I'm so glad you were able to make time. And I also have to say I'm so glad your Steelers lost this weekend as well, so it wasn't just my Browns. Ladies and gentlemen, again, if you head over to my website at ayankonthefooty.com, you'll find everything about the podcast that you need there. I do hope you'll get on the mailing list. That way, when new episodes come out, I can get them to you as soon as they're available. It's a great way to get the new episodes delivered as soon as they come out. I would love to be able to get you on the list for that purpose. And folks, do me a favor, look out for one another, check in on your friends, tell them you love them, be decent to people. I'm just recording this introduction after having read some of the excerpts of the things that have allegedly gone on with the Hawthorne Football Club, and I'm kind of at a loss for words. I'm not going to delve into that right now. I'm sure that's something that Mick and I will talk about on Thursday, but it's very troublesome, and it did not sit terribly well with me either. But like I said, check up on one another, make sure you're okay. And ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate the kind words. And as always, may your dribble kick never hit that post. I will catch you later. This has been episode 203 of A Yank on the Footy. Don't forget that you can reach me at yank_on on Twitter or to yankonthefooty@gmail.com or Yank on the Footy podcast over on Facebook or Meta. And also I'm on LinkedIn And on Instagram, just look for a Yank on the Footy as well. Love to be able to interact with you there. And again, if you've got a club you want to get a shout out, let me know. That'd be absolutely terrific. And ladies and gentlemen, until next time, this is Craig Wessels. Goodbye.